Hello, and we're doing a workout. Hooray! We won't need too much equipment. We will need only a few things. We will need a wall. You can also use a door if you don't have a wall, as long as your door closes securely, because you will be putting a little bit of weight on it. You will also need a long resistance band. If you have the client kit, this will probably be the firmer version of the two, but it doesn't really matter. You just the long straight one. We will need a chair. And then depending on your level of mobility in your knees, we may also need a pillow. I don't have a pillow in here, but I do have Musafer, who will be helping us if we need him. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just get started with our chair. Now, if your balance is ever feeling very iffy, please be set up next to a wall just in case, so it's there if you need it. If your knees tend to be troublesome and you have trouble sitting down in chairs with knee pain, we're going to go ahead and get started doing this first exercise with our pillow placed on the chair so that we have our seat a little higher. So we're going to be starting with a squat. Let me actually move this so I'm a little easier to see. We're going to be starting with a squat. So all we're going to be doing, squatting to the chair, coming back up. So this is technically a box squat. So now that you've seen it, I'm going to walk you through it. I will take away Musafer just for now, but you hang out there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started standing in front of our chair. You don't want to be so close that you're touching it, but you don't want to be so far away that it can't catch you if you lose your balance. So you want to be just a few inches away from it. Now, when we're doing a squat, it's really common for people to think that this all happens at our knees. And then what happens is we can't go very low, our knees hurt, and everything sucks. So we're going to just piece this together one thing at a time. You're going to be standing nice and close to your chair. We're going to think about our foot position first. So some people might be comfortable squatting with their feet right under their hips, toes facing dead forward. Other people might like their feet a little wider or even a little bit spun out. It really depends on what your mobility is, how your hips are shaped, all of that fun stuff. So this whole time while we're learning how to squat, we're going to be doing some dancey dances with our feet to try and make sure that everything feels as comfortable as possible. So with no further ado, I will show you these squats from the side. So we're going to go ahead and start with our feet. Most people I've found will be more comfortable with their feet a tiny bit wider than their hips and their toes pointed out slightly. So go ahead and find that position. And now we're going to think about our core bracing, like when we start our deadlift. So that's tucking our ribs, that's tucking our tailbone, that's getting a nice active core. We're going to go ahead and start our squat by pushing our hips back behind us just slightly, and then bend our knees and squat down. And then maybe you bail out, come down here, and then stand on up. I don't care. Hips back, bend your knees, either tap or sit, and then stand back up. If that was jacking up your knees, go ahead and grab your pillow and set it down so that when you try your squats, you don't have to go quite as low. But if you're feeling good without the pillow, you can go ahead and leave it without. Now, we're going to go ahead and do some experimentation with our feet this round. If you don't quite understand the hinge squat part yet, don't worry about it. One thing at a time. Let's start with our feet and work out the rest. So we'll go ahead and find a position with our feet. We're going to go ahead and hinge squat down, or if we're going the hinge, if that was confusing. And then now we're going to move our feet a little closer together. And now we're going to hinge, we're going to squat down. And we're going to stand back up. And you're going to notice whether or not that felt better or worse than the other position. If it felt better, great, we can stay there. If it felt really weird or painful or like it was not working for your body in some way, go back to where you were before. Maybe let's try spinning our feet out a little extra. Hips back, then squat down. Stand back up. If that felt better, fantastic. If it felt weirder, go back to where it felt better. And we're just going to do that a few more times, moving around where our feet are to try and notice where our body feels the best. Because everybody's squat stance is going to be a little different. And the hardest part at the beginning is figuring out the stance that works best for you. So let's do about 3 more. But if you have had enough, you can go ahead and wait for me to catch up to you. Last one. Perfect. All right. So if that was kind of confusing, don't worry about it. We're going to come back and practice this again. For now, though, we're going to give our lower body a break, and we're going to experiment with something with the upper body. So we're going to go ahead and look at our wall push-ups next. So for this, we will need a wall. Shocking, right? Now, if you've already done the other wall push-up workout, fabulous. We're still keeping with that form with the wall push-ups. So we're making sure that this is really dialed in. And then on the next set, we might move on a little bit just to see how it feels. All right. So hands are going to be, you're going to be facing the wall or door. If you can, if you're doing this against the door, be against the direction that it closes. So if it swings shut this way, you're on that side of it. Hands are going to be up against the wall, a little tiny bit lower than your shoulders. And then you can clock your hands out slightly just to make sure that you're comfortable. I'm going to come up on your tippy toes and walk back just a hair until you have some weight in your hands. Then you're going to bend your elbows, face comes down toward the wall, and then you push away. Bend your elbows, and then if the push away is feeling way too hard, go ahead and step forward. Stand back up, normal style, and then reset. Back to your plank. And we're just going to do a few of these. And I want you to think about externally rotating your shoulders here. So that rolling your shoulders away from your midline. I'll sometimes think of it as screwing my shoulders down my back. And let's do 3 more. Lovely. Now, whether you were doing just the lowering part, the eccentric, or you were doing the whole push-up, yay, good job. Let's go ahead and head back to our squats. So go ahead and get situated with your chair. If you are using the pillow, go ahead and put the pillow on there unless it's still there. And then we're going to go ahead and try and find our feet that felt the best last time. Before we worry about anything else, we're just going to find our feet. And if you're thinking, but Francesca, I lost my feet. What do I do? That's okay. Part of it is we find what feels good, then we go away from it, and then we come back, and then we practice finding our feet again because we want to practice getting into those positions that feel good, and we're not going to be able to find them the very first thing every single time. So go ahead and get situated as close as you remember to what felt the best. Think about tuck your ribs, tuck your tailbone, brace your core, push your hips back slightly, then bend your knees, squat down, stand back up. If that felt good, maybe try experimentally wiggling your feet to do that again. Tuck your ribs down, tailbone, brace your core, hinge back, squat down, nice and slow, stand back up. And these first 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 are just going to be rearranging your feet just a bit between each squat until you find what feels the best. And then once you feel good, we're going to go ahead and do our set right there. So for this, I want you to think about, even if it feels very chunky, I don't want you to worry about it being smooth just yet. It will smooth out over time as you keep practicing. Thinking about this squat in several different pieces. So we think about bracing our core. Head to our hips is nice and stiff. We get ready. We push our hips back just a tiny bit. We squat down. We stand up. So there are basically 4 things that we're doing. We're bracing, we're hinging back a bit, we're squatting down, we're standing up. Again, brace, hinge, squat, stand up. Brace, hinge, squat, stand up. It's really common after we stand up to kind of get out of our brace. So that's why we want to think about bringing everything back to where we want it to be, so that every single time we do our squat, it's like it's our first and most beautiful squat of the day. Let's do 3 more, unless you have had enough and you are tired, in which case wait for me to catch up. I think there's 1 more after this one, but I was talking So if I counted wrong, my condolences. All right. Yay, good job. Nextly, we're going to go ahead and get into some push-ups. But if you're ready to move on from the wall, we're going to move on from the wall. If you want to stick with the wall, we will stick with the wall. Doesn't matter to me. Nothing is better or worse. It's just whatever works best for you. So when we are doing our push-ups, we can use a counter like this, which I realized that I forgot to check if my feet are in the frame. So if my feet are cut off, I am sorry about that. So I like a counter, something about rib to hip height is going to be usually the best thing to use. So for this, thinking about hands, tippy toes, core, yes? All of this happens exactly the same right here. So we've got our hands, we've got our plank, we step back, we've got our tailbone tucked a little bit to have a nice strong core. And this is going to be our start position for our push-up. Now here, this is going to be quite a bit harder than the wall push-up. So when we bend our elbows, we're going to bend our elbows, see if we can bring our chest all the way to tap in between our hands. Now if you can, you'll push back up. And just like this, and it will be amazing. And then you might get down here and you're like, Mother of God, I have to do like a body roll to get out of this. And if that's the case, no worries. You're going to bend your elbows, step forward, stand up, reset. Everybody fights me on this modification, but I guarantee you that if you just work on getting a really good form in this lowering position, it will be lovely and wonderful, and you will actually build strength and then be able to do the full push-up sooner than you think if you keep practicing. So I rambled through those quite a bit. So let's go ahead and tighten it up and do these together. Let's go ahead and get situated in our form. Hands are going to be on this counter. You are free to put a towel or something up against this if that would be helpful. Hands are up against the counter, up on our tippy toes, bracing our core, tucking our tailbone, tucking our ribs. Bending your elbows, lowering down, tap your chest. Maybe you're stepping forward and then stepping back to reset, lowering back down, stepping forward, stepping back. Or maybe you're doing the bending and straightening full push-up. That is fine too. Another great modification, if you're doing the full push-ups, you might notice that you start to get tired. You sort of start to body roll out of it. When that happens, just go to the lowering down and see if you can get a few more good reps. Our form is much more important at this stage than just doing as many as we possibly can. So let's do one more and try and keep our body nice and stiff, working really good, and then releasing. Because right now, I care a lot more about the quality of what you're doing rather than the quantity. There's a time and a place to push and get a little grindy and flop our way out of our form. Right now at the beginning, this is not that time. We want to make sure that we're having our body in a really good place for us that's going to keep ourselves safe, injury-free, all that good stuff. So we want to be really careful to be having our form just as good as possible. The grammar on that sentence was weird, so, good times. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and go back to our chair. No, we're not going back to our chair. Never mind. Our chair is actually going to be elsewhere. We're going to go to our band. Sometimes I forget things. All right, so we're going to our band. We're going back to our lower body. Now, if you think back to one of the other videos that you've done where we did our seated band abduction sitting on the chair, this is going to be a progression of that. So we're going to go ahead and try it. And if it doesn't work for you for any reason, we'll go ahead and you can use that seated band abduction as an alternate. And I'll go ahead and put that one on screen for you. So you're going to take your long resistance band and then you're going to tie it around your knees. So we just do a knot, preferably one that won't fall off, but if it does fall off, it's not the end of the world, it's fine. All right, so now we're thinking, again, about our hinge. We use a lot of hinges in the world of weightlifting. So we're gonna think about bracing your core, tucking your ribs, tucking your tailbone, nice strong stomach, push your hips back just a little bit. So it's really important that our hips go back and it's not our knees going forward, because then your knees are going to hurt just a bunch and you're not going to have a great time. So hips push back, and then you're going to think about that movement that we did in the chair where you squeeze your butt and use that to push your knees outward. Except this time, we're going to be doing a step like this. Amazing. So here, we're going to have our hips back. We step to the side, and then when you run out of room, you're going to step to the other side. Very nice. In between, you can take a short break, figure out how it's feeling. If your knees are hurting, push your hips back more. If your low back is hurting, make sure you're not arching your back and you're keeping your tailbone tucked. And brace into the front of your stomach a little bit more. Let's go ahead and try that again with a little less talking from me. You're going to tuck your tailbone. You're going to push your hips back, brace your core, then use your butt cheek. Think squeeze your butt to move your knee, and then nice and slow and controlled, bring the other leg in. I said less talking. Apparently I lied. Sorry. And then we'll just nice and smooth step, 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 step. And then once you reach the end of your area, you're just going to step back in the other direction. Now this band is trying to pull this following leg back in super fast. So your job is not to let it. You're going to keep your hips really, really active. Think pushing your knees out into the band this entire time. If you've had enough here, go ahead and take a break. If you're still with me, let's go ahead and do another 5 or 6 steps over to one side and then to the other side. And then you'll be done with this round. Last step and release. Now we're going to go ahead and use this band for our next thing. So you can go ahead and untie it. Next, we're going to be doing a band front raise. Now that looks like this. And I will show you, showing you it first, and then I'll walk you through it. So this looks really simple, and it can indeed be extremely easy. So that's good. That's why we're starting with it. So we're going to go ahead and take our band. We're going to keep our shoulders down away from our ears the entire time. You're going to have the band. There's a imprecise amount of tension on this band. So it's pretty much enough for thinking about your bent arm band pull apart, enough that you can pull your hands apart just a little bit and have some tension on the band. So this is now tense. And what you're going to do is, starting with bent arms, tension on the band, push your arms out straight, keeping those shoulders down, thinking about your shoulder blades are pulling your hands apart into this band. Then you're going to lift up to about shoulder height and then down to a little bit in front of your hips. And then a little bit up and then down, nice and slow like this. Now, if you're noticing that this is just eating up the front of your shoulders and more the top of your arms, that's okay. We don't want that to happen though, so let's see if we can adjust out of it. So take your hands, if that's you, take your hands a little bit wider on this band so you have a little bit more room. Then do a couple band pull aparts just to see if you need to help those shoulder blade muscles wake up a little bit. Then with those hands a little wider on the band, you're going to shoulders down, shoulder blades, pull your hands apart, straighten your arms and lift up and down. And then being mindful here not to arch as you go up. So keeping a nice stack. Hips stay under your ribs stay stacked on top of your hips. Let's do 2 more. Now, if you're feeling the sort of front of your arms working evenly, kind of all the way down here, maybe a little shoulders and some shoulder blade, that's perfect. It's more if we have a lot of really sharp work happening right up here or in the top of your neck. That's not going to be super helpful. Now we're going to go ahead and do our lateral band walk one more time. Then we'll do our band front raise one more time. So go ahead and lasso this guy around your legs. And if you're noticing that the thighs weren't really working that well for you, you are welcome to do the calf, around your calves if that works better for you. So we do a little knot. Preferably one that you can get undone is always nice. Then we're going to find our core brace. So tuck your ribs, tuck your tailbone, squeeze your belly, push your hips back, squeeze your butt, step and step. Keeping your core braced, trying not to pick your hip up, but trying to slide your feet along the ground as much as you can. If you're noticing your low back is starting to hurt, that's a good time to take a break, or maybe go to that seated abduction in the chair. That's fine as well. But if you're still with me, let's go ahead and do one more walk that way and the other way, and then we'll be done. Checking in with your core bracing. It's easy to lose that as you keep stepping. Few more here. Let's head back the other direction. And release. Go ahead and untie that. Let's get ready for your band front raise. So when you're ready, we'll take, even if you didn't notice too much trouble last time, I'm curious about trying different, I like to try different variations just so you can be really sure that what you're doing works for you the best. So this time you're going to take your hands wider on that band than you did the time before it, just to see how it feels. You're going to keep your shoulders down, externally rotate just a little bit, then think tension goes outward into the band. Straighten your arms and lift to about shoulder height. It's also helpful to do this sometimes in front of a mirror so you can make sure that one arm isn't leading the charge. But you can also look at your hands and just make sure that things are going fairly evenly. And if you do notice that things tend to get painful at the top, just shorten that range of motion. So you don't have to go all the way up here. Maybe you're working right down here, more in front of your ribs and your hips. That's totally fine. And let's do 3 more, but you can stop whenever you're ready. Last one. Good, and release. So you can take that band, set it to the side, and good job. Yay. A lot of new things, a lot of overly thinking about things. But like I've said before, it's important at the beginning to be a little extra finicky and nitpicky and spend the time that you need to make sure that you're learning these movements, making sure that you're feeling good in your body before we move on. So let me know if you have any questions, and I will talk to you soon.